Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to another episode from the BI Guruji series. My name is Rashmita, and I'm the event planner for Microsoft Reactor India. I'm here today joined by our very own host, Bhaskar and Fretz. But before we start today's session, I would request you all to read our code of conduct. We are all here to learn together, so please be respectful of other people's views, understanding of differences, being kind and considerate in the way you engage. The chat section is open throughout, and we do encourage you all to participate. Our speaker will answer all your questions during the session, so please feel free to drop all your questions in the chat section. With this, thank you all. Enjoy your session, and let me bring in our host for today's session. Hi, good
Hello.
evening.
Hello, everyone.
Uh, Thanks, Rashmita, for bringing us in. Hi, everybody. This is Fretz and Basker from Microsoft. We are really excited to be here in this session and to kickstart the first series of the Synapse Analytics. Uh, so, so, th- so just a quick check. Are you guys able to hear us properly? Okay, so please to raise hand and let us know if there's any problem with the network. So without any due delay, let's Bhaskar, if you go into our intro slide.
So, Fred, my slides are visible, right?
I think I think there's a bit of a delay. Yeah, it's coming up.
Okay.
Okay, so just quick introduction about us. Myself is Fretz Nuson. I'm a senior program manager from Synapse Engineering team. I'm based out of Bangalore. Been in Microsoft for 4 years. My background is mostly on the data warehouse and big data analytics. That's about me. Bhaskar, you want to introduce yourself?
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone, depending upon the time zone you are joining this session. So, my name is Bhaskar Sharma, and I'm program manager in Azure Synapse Engineering team in Microsoft, and I'm located in Noida, Microsoft Noida office. And I'm working in data warehousing and big data analytics work space from last 10 years. And during this 10 year, have been into multiple roles, and I have done many migrations from on-prem to cloud. And in Microsoft, I'm part of customer success engineering team. And as part of this stream, my role is to help customer to achieve more with Azure Synapse Analytics. And this is our first session of Azure Synapse Analytics series. And in the next few sessions, in the next month, we'll have subsequent sessions, and there will be dig more on each and every component of Azure Synapse Analytics. And this is our beginner session, the first session, where we'll be covering the overview. And another thing to note is I know there are people from different background joining this call, and you may be a key decision maker in an organization. You might be an architect or you might be a developer. So we are sharing our LinkedIn handle. So if you are an architect, if you discuss any use case with us, feel free to do that. And if you are a decision maker and you are migrating to Azure Synapse Analytics and you want any guidance, please reach out to us through our LinkedIn. With that, Fritz, I will go on to the agenda slide. Please
Yeah,
continue.
please. Yeah, thanks, Bhaskar. So this is the agenda that we are going to talk about in the session. So I'll just give a quick walk through it. So we're going to talk a little bit about Microsoft Intelligent Data Platform and how the Synapse Analytics was going to fit in, and then I will introduce about what Synapse Analytic is, what are the key features that make it differentiating from the rest of the product, and then Bhaskar will give you a demo and a walkthrough about provisioning and how to use the Synapse to get things done. Okay, then we will take Q&As. So that's how we are planning to organize the session. Now, you probably would have already heard this saying, right? That data is a new oil. That which is true. Data is a valuable asset, but in order for a company or an organization to become really successful using data, that you have to convert this raw data into a meaningful, reliable, timely insight, so that you can take that insights and take the proper decision, and which going to gives you an edge, right? So this is very important. That's why the Microsoft, we are announced this Microsoft Intelligent Data Platform. Now this is a what do I say? This platform consists of capabilities across databases, analytics, and data governance, right? The reason why we invented this, why we create this platform, is that so that business as a or business, the organization, they can now focus on what is most important to them, like the insight, rather than figuring out how to integrate all these pieces together to create a data asset. So that's the prime goal of creating the platform. Now it consists a lot of tools, from a SQL Server to Azure SQL DB. These are the relational database, the Cosmos DBs, NoSQL. The Azure Synapse Analytics is the product that you're going to talk about it. It's a big data analytics, and we have Databricks, Power BI, and many more, right? So so as I said, the main purpose here is to minimize the friction that organization has to go through to put all the asset together, so that you are all the boilerplate, right? All the necessary integration and management, it is provided by the platform itself, so that you can start bringing the data and start getting the insights out of it. So that's where the Microsoft Intelligent Data Platform fits in. Now, what we are also doing is we are also integrating the this Microsoft Data Platform. Bhaskar, could you go to the next slide? Yeah, we are also integrating this particular platform with the rest of the Microsoft Cloud, like Dynamic 365, Office 365, and Power Platform, so that customers who are using this cloud, they get a better, enhanced, richer data experience. So that's with that being said, what I would also like to call out is, Bhaskar, if you go to the next slide, is this is the latest Gartner report for the BI analytics. You can see the Microsoft is already placed in the Magic Quadrant as a leader for the analytics and BI intelligence. So that's something which we wanted to call out. Now, with that said, now we can dive deep into the Synapse Analytics. Now, what is Azure Synapse Analytics? Now, this is the first unified cloud native platform created for converged analytics. I know that it's a lot of jargons here, so let me try to break it one by one. When I say cloud native, all services what you see in this screen in this particular slide, these are either a PaaS or a SaaS service, which means it is fully managed. There's no operations required from your side, and you are already tapping into the latest technology, latest hardware, and you have all those informations already, and you're taking advantage of the limitless of the cloud. Now, when I say unified, what it means is, in an organization, right, especially in the current era, you're not only dealing with the transactional data, which is in the form of the rows and column, but you also have big data where you have terabytes of data to analyze, and otherwise you might get a time series data. So based on the use case, uh, we- considering that this fact, what we have done is we have implemented three analytic runtimes. One is it's called SQL Pool, which is predominantly meant for the transactional data, like which is in the form of rows and columns. Then we have a big data engine which is based on the Apache Spark. On top of it, Microsoft has built in more performance optimization, which is IP of Microsoft, basically to get a better performance. Which is so this will take care of all the big data use cases. And if you have real-time data or you're dealing with the time series or log analytics, then we have another engine called Data Explorer. As you can see, right, there's a unification of these three runtimes. Now, based on this your use case, you can choose one of these. The second level of unification is from the other management aspects of it, which is the top part of the slide. the DevOps, the security, the monitoring, the management, giving the access control. All this can be managed from a single plane. So this, what do I say? This encapsulates a lot of things from the customer. So you don't need to figure out how to wire this different services together. How do you secure the services? All this can is done taken by the product itself. Now, if you see the bottom part of it, which is basically the eye icon, that's a purview. This is where you get the governance capability of the product. So if you remember the previous slide, the a data platform, right? It's a combination of your governance, analytics, and databases, right? So this Synapse fits in the middle of that analytic piece. And what you see on the left hand side is basically it's your data sources, this like your relational database, NoSQL databases, or the event generators, or the clickstream, which is basically the source for your source which is generating the data. Now, this data can be easily brought into Synapse Analytics using something called pipelines. We will show a demo of that. Then you, based on your use case, based on the skill set your organization have, you can use one of those of the runtime event, either SQL or Spark or the Data Explorer, to do your prep the data, and then you can then you can expose this data into your businesses. That is your right hand side, which is basically it has an inbuilt integration to your Power BI, your machine learning, the Dynamics 365, and Power Platform. So in that way, right, this Azure Synapse Analytics is bringing you an end-to-end uh, the end-to-end scenario for you from the data creation all the way till the data consumption layer. So that's why it's called unified. Now, the last one, the converged analytics. Uh, this is the major, this is the something which I really love about this product, right? Because in the traditional way, right, you always have to write a ETL, some kind of a package to pull the data from your databases to the analytics. Now, there's nothing wrong in that, but the problem is the way at which the data is growing, the complexity, and the amount of complexity that is getting added. It's become more and more difficult to maintain that. Now we introduce something called Synapse Link, which kind of helps you to get this data without writing a single line of code into the analytics. So that's where the unification and convergence analytics come into play. As you said, we'll dive more deeper into each of these areas in a little more detailed. Okay, can you go to the next slide, Bhaskar? So now, why Synapse Analytics? So this is the one of the questions that we do always get. So these are the five major pillars, I would say, the differentiating factor that Synapse is built on. One is the limitless scale. As I said, since it's a cloud native, right? Whether you're coming, whatever the use case, you can easily grow from terabytes to petabyte with so easily in Synapse. The second is the powerful insight because of the inbuilt integration to your BI and ML tools. You can easily give the data onto the data scientists and business analysts for them to take action. Then the third is a unified experience. As I said, it give a unified experience for the developers based on your personas as well as based on what kind of use case you're doing. And the converged analytics. This is where that inbuilt integration to pull the data from your transactional to the analytics. And finally is the security framework. These are the five pillars for Synapse is built upon. Now we will take more. We'll take one by one. So if you go into the limitless scale, right? Now what it means is whether you're dealing with the transactional data, or you're doing the big data, or you want a serverless consumption layer, or you want a provision. When I say provision, is in you acquire certain compute upfront and then use that to process the data. Whatever the model you want to build in analytics, this can grow in a limitless way from petabyte to petabytes without having too much of it, without having any management or the operational overhead. On top of it, each of these engines comes with a proprietary optimized work engine, which gives you the best price performance ratio. So that's built into Synapse Analytics. The other one is the unified experience, which is the second pillar. I think the slide is at to Pascal. Can you go to the next slide?
Fretz, I just wanted to stop you here. So we have a question from Kevin, and I
Mhm.
think this is one of the confusions most of the people have. So the question is, what is the difference between Snaps and Snaps Analytics?
Okay, that's a great. So the product is Azure Synapse Analytics. So actually, it's the same. I mean, Synapse or Synapse Analytics. It refers to the ecosystem, the product, right? But in that Synapse, you have different engines. There's called SQL pool, which is divided into a dedicated pool or serverless. Dedicated pool, as the name indicates, it's a provision way of dealing with your T-SQL dialect. Then you have Apache Spark, which is a runtime to deal with your big data, and your Data Explorer, which is to deal with your real time use cases. So these are three ways runtimes that you can leverage in Azure Synapse. So when someone tell you Azure Synapse, uh, it is what they're referring to is this particular product, but you probably want to ask that what engine they are referring to. It could be either of these three. And based on our experience, people do refer Synapse as the dedicated pool is often referred as Synapse. Kevin, I hope that addresses your question. Okay. Uh, now, now coming back to unified experience, right? So we already spoke about it, right? It unifies from whether you're a data scientist or you are a data engineer or you are a SQL developer. It gives a single UX to do this in the same way, and you're dealing with a big data like which needs capability of a PySpark or a Spark, or you are working on a traditional warehouse where you can just do T-SQL, it still give you the same experience by using engine. So that's where the unified experience comes into play. Okay, so and again, as I said, all the services are cloud native, which means zero maintenance and zero management from the customer. So that's the other, and all of them have a financially backed SLAs. Okay, if you can go into the next slide. Yeah, now the third pillar, as I said, is the unlocking the powerful insight. In other words, this is the way you are democratizing the data, since it has a built-in integration with your BI, like Power BI and machine learning, right? The data which you are bringing into the Synapse, which has been prepped by one of those engines, are readily accessible to your business now, to the business and user. Now, it could be a data scientist who wants to run their machine learning algorithm, or it could be a business user who's just looking into Power BI report. This integrations are built in so that they get a very fast access to the data as and when it is gets prepared. So that's where we are able to democratize, or in other words, unlock the insights provided by insights to the business. Okay. The other one is the converge analytics. So this is what I was talking about. So in any organization which you take about it, right, they would have a data estate. Now, data estate, when I say it would consist of your databases, your which is probably is your transactional operational system, consisting of a relational databases, NoSQL databases in different forms. And then you will have an analytics where, and some of the org will have a data lake, some of them will have a data warehouse or an appliance. Then and then you will have a set of tools for them to consume the data. Now, what I mean by the converge analytics here is in Synapse, we have a concept, we have something called Synapse Link. But what it does is, it is by default, the engine pulls the data from your SQL DB, your COS, which is your relational database, be it SQL Server or Azure SQL DB, or Cosmos DB, which is basically is a NoSQL database, or the Dynamics 365, which is a business application, directly into Synapse Analytics without you building a custom ETL. So the advantage what you have here is, as a developer, or as a business as a whole, you can use those time and resource to analyze the data, what you're bringing, what's been brought into the Synapse, to find insights or find trends, rather than spending time to figure out, okay, how do I connect a SQL database to my Synapse Analytics? What should be my CDC logic? How would I store the data? All this are kind of taken care of it, and that's what I mean by converge analytics. And this is what you see here. We do this by using something called Synapse links. uh, is okay. Okay, as you can see, right, this as I said, is a completely managed by the platform. There's no ETL to be written by the developer. It is built for convergence. You are building the data from your transactional operational database into the analytics domain, and there's near real time, so that there is very little lag. There's very less lag from the data originator on your database for it to come and land into your analytics space. There's a very minimalistic lag. So this will help a lot in your organization to remove this ETL, which is all the ETL, which is meant to get the data from your this various transactional sources. Okay, so that's how it provides you the converge analytics. Yeah. Now, the last one is the security. Now, the Synapse is built on a very secure framework. Now, since this is an overview session, we will now go into the depth of it. But what I can tell you is that we have this concept of defense in depth, where your data is actually protected in different layers of security before somebody can get into it. Apart from that, it also have the various compliance fear. I mean, it do comply to the various industry compliance standards. So by that, you have your data is it's well protected, and on top, and then it also have this monitoring and responding to threats, so that if there is an unexpected access to your database, or if there is an anomaly, all this can be, the system has an inbuilt mechanism to identify and alert it, and all of this comes at zero cost. You don't have to pay additional cost for any of this. So this is what I was referring to, that, and this is called defense in depth. What you can see is it has several layers of security perimeters before anybody can access your data, and it is and you can either go with the default model, or you can actually have a much more fine-grained control to define. You can bring I mean, like, for example, the data protection, it protects the data at rest and motion, and you can even integrate with your own key. So, and authentication, I mean, you can use SQL authentication, or you can turn off SQL authentication and use just AAD based authentication. The network security is nothing but what is going to give you private communication, thereby you're completely cutting off the connectivity from the internet, right? So it has to be originating from your private network. And the third protection is what I was referring to. If there is an anomaly, if there is an anomaly in access, or if there is a SQL injection attack which has been attempted, the system automatically identify, and it gets and it is alerted to the respective the team and actions, and so the actions can be taken. Uh, so that's and this slide talks about the various certification that's this particular product provides, which is, as you can see, it has the uh, I mean, it has pretty much all the certificate that is used in the healthcare and finance domain, and that makes this particular product pretty robust in terms of security framework. So with that, in essence, what you're doing is you are building an engine for your business, where you can create an analytic platform which can scale from a terabytes to petabyte with zero maintenance and zero maintenance and operational overhead, which has various modules which help you to integrate your data from on-premises. You can choose the right language, based on your organization, to process whether I mean, you can use a PySpark or a Scala or a R or SQL, and and it has the best in breed compute engines to address your use cases, and then it is integrated with the BI, like the Power BI and machine learning for easy access of the data. So with that, So this is the very high level overview of the Synapse as a whole. In the next session, we can actually pick one of these areas, like maybe a SQL pool or a Spark pool, and go and talk a lot more in detail about the architecture, use cases, the best practice, and implementations. What you see in the screen is just a small snapshot of the various customers that who are using Synapse today for their data, for their data estate. So with this, I will hand it over to my friend Bhaskar, who's going to talk about the provisioning of Synapse and how you can get started using this. Over to you, Bhaskar.
Thank you, Fretz. So by now, what Fretz has covered is Fretz has given an introduction. What is Azure Synapse Analytics? And it is your one-stop solution for all your big data needs. And it's an ecosystem. It consists of various engines, maybe right from your SQL engines to your Spark engines and your real-time analytics, the Data Explorer. And but how to provision the Azure Synapse Analytics? So in this demo, what we'll see is how we can provision the Azure Synapse Analytics. It is very easy to provision the Azure Synapse Analytics. It is a cloud offering, and with few knobs, you can in a matter of 5 minutes you will have your Azure Synapse Analytics up and running. So we'll see with the demo. So in the slide you can see, right? So if I know most of you will be aware about Azure portal and Azure cloud service or Azure public clouds, and you know that most of the resources when we provision to Azure, it requires a subscription and resource group. So subscription is basically for the billing purpose to group the resources, and your resource group is to apply the life cycle and the policies to a resource. So when we create Azure Synapse Analytics, right? So what we need is we need a workspace name and we need a reason to create my workspace. So quickly, I will jump into the portal and I'll show you. So this is the Azure portal. And in the Azure portal, if you'll click on create a resource, and in the search, if you'll just write Azure Synapse, you will see the Azure Synapse is available. So just click on it and you can see here the overview. Azure Synapse is a limitless analytical service that brings together data integration, enterprise data warehouses, and big data analytics. And you can also find the key capabilities which we are providing in this platform. So when you click on the create button, so what you need to do is you just need to provide the subscription, your resource group, and you need a workspace name. This workspace name is, you need to provide this workspace name, and it should be unique. And the most important thing is the reason. So why reason is important? So because if my on-prem or if all my data source are present in Central India region, so I need my compute, whether it will be SQL compute or it will be a Spark compute, should be co-located. So the reason is very important here. And you need to provide the storage account. After that, I want to show you one more thing. There is one capability which we provide, a managed virtual network. So with managed virtual network, you can offload the burden of managing the virtual network to Microsoft, or you can say to Azure Synapse. Azure Synapse, you don't need to configure the firewall. You don't need to take care of your energy rules. Microsoft or Azure Synapse will do it for you. So with that, you can just
Hey Bhaskar, with respect to that, there was a question in the comment which talks about how is it possible the data can be easily exposed into the internet when using Synapse? So as Bhaskar said, right, the managed VNet, if you opt as this, it is secure by design. What it means is, unless you make an explicit attempt to download the data and expose it on the internet, there's no other, otherwise this data cannot be accessed. So every communication that can communicate to the Synapse has to originate from a restrictive IP, a private network, which usually are either behind a VPN or a VPN or is an office network. So in that way, that is what we mean by security by design. So on top of that, we have all those defense in depth so that it's not easy that to expose the data But having said that, right, I want to be very open and very transparent here. Having said that, if you decide to create, bring the PI data with no, with all security features turned off, then yes, you're right. There's a possibility of you running into the uh, then your data can be accessed into in the internet. That's where we have a best practices which talks about how what are the things that you should take from security. And one last thing, this is there's a question called microcontroller. This is not. I know this could be, the name can be confusing. It's nothing to do with the microcontroller. This is a product offered from the Microsoft for the analytics, and it's as part of the intelligent data platform. Okay, I thought I should address this too. Sorry, but go ahead, Bhaskar.
Yeah, so just to add few things here, Fretz. Uh, in our defense in depth, we have something called private endpoints also, where what we can do is we can completely cut off the public access to our Azure Synapse Analytics, and we can whitelist only the specified virtual network from where the traffic can come. So all those things will be discussed in details in the later sections or the later sessions. So this is just an overview. So we are not covering everything in this session. So with this, what we can do is we'll just hit review and create, and it will provision the Azure Synapse Analytics for us. So I'll not wait it to create because it will take 5 to 10 minutes. I have already created one workspace for us, so we'll just switch on to that workspace. So you can see here. So once we provision the Azure Synapse Analytics, so you can see we have the Synapse workspace provisioned for us. And what is Synapse workspace? It provides a central point for managing all the data and all data processing runtime. So as Fretz mentioned earlier, so we have the data processing runtimes like SQL pools. In SQL pools, we have serverless and dedicated. We have Spark pools and we have data explorers. So this is the one-stop place where you can manage all your data, and also you can manage all your data processing runtime. And there was a question. So in this question, so if you go to networking, this will give me the capability to block all my public access. And what I can do is then I can create a private endpoints, and I can only restrict and I only whitelist the traffic coming from the specified virtual networks. So I will quickly jump to my slide. Okay. So this is how we'll create a or provision a Azure Synapse workspace. So as I mentioned, right, so it has different runtimes. So one runtime is your SQL runtime, or you can say SQL engine, SQL pools. And in SQL pools, we have two offerings. One is serverless and one is dedicated. So if I talk about serverless, so it is a true serverless platform with no infrastructure setup. And you need not to maintain or manage any infrastructure in serverless. It is pure pay per query and ideal for all your ad hoc data lake and exploratory and transformation work. We also have one more SQL pool. We call it dedicated SQL pool. So a dedicated SQL pool is a enterprise data warehouse solution present in Azure Synapse Analytics, and it is a distributed data processing platform, and it is more suitable for the mission critical workload, and your serverless is more opt for your ad hoc kind of workload. So you can see in the screen, we have SQL on demand, that is my SQL serverless. And I have SQL dedicated tools, which are the provisioned one. So these are the two offerings from the SQL pools in the Azure Synapse Analytics. We also have a Apache Spark runtime engine. So if I'll call about Apache Spark, so Apache Spark is a parallel processing framework that supports in-memory processing for big data. And Apache Spark in Synapse is one of the Microsoft implementation of Apache Spark in Azure Cloud. So I will quickly move to my screen, the demo screen. So if you can see my workspace, here you can see all the three workloads. So right from your SQL serverless to dedicated and your Apache Spark pools. And if I'll click on any Apache Spark pool, you can also see the configuration. So as I said, right, so Synapse workspace is a central point to manage all your data and your data processing engines. So here you can manage everything, right from the networking to your engines and to your security. So if I quickly move into the overview, so in the overview, you can see the two endpoints, the dedicated SQL endpoint and the serverless SQL endpoint. These are the endpoints from where you can connect to your dedicated SQL engine and your serverless SQL engine and can do your exploratory work. So the next thing is Azure Synapse Analytics Studio. So as we have already covered about Azure Synapse Analytics, it is an ecosystem. Consists of your data integration, your provision, and your on-demand SQL pools, your Spark engines, and with that, to to work with this, to develop your application, to work with all these engines, and to create your pipelines, you need a developer experience. So, as Snaps Analytical Studio provides you a SaaS developer experience for code-free and code-first approach. So you can see here, this is your Azure Synapse Studio, and it is a single place for your all data engineer, data scientists, and IT pros to collaborate and enterprise analytics. So what you can do here is it's a one-stop solution where you can, or you can say it's a tool where all your IT pros, your data scientists can collaborate, can create your application, can create your pipelines, ingestion pipelines, can transform your data, monitor all your pipelines, and also can manage it. We'll see it in the subsequent slides. So as I said, right, so Snap Studio, so it divides itself into different hubs. So in the left hand side, if you can see, we have different hubs, right from the data to develop, orchestrate, monitor, and manage. So we will cover each hubs one by one and see what all functionality or the capabilities are provided in each hub. So let's talk about the data hub. So as we have mentioned earlier, right? So in Azure Synapse Analytics, you have your SQL engine, your serverless engine. You can integrate with your external data sources. You can integrate with your Azure data lake. So all these data sets are present and accessible in this data hub. So this is a place where all your data sets, all your data, whether it will be your Spark created lake databases, your dedicated SQL pool databases, your SQL serverless databases, everything will be available here in the data hub. In the developer hub, so we have the data, but we need a medium or we need a development experience to work with this data. So so there will be a data scientist who will be working on their ML model. There will be ETL, who will be creating the ETL pipelines, and there will be ad hoc developers or the testers who will be creating their test cases, integration test cases. So all this collaboration or the development can be done in the developer hub, and it is a multi-language to analyze data under one umbrella. You can create your SQL script, you can create your Spark application, and you can create your data flows, which is in no code, low code environment, and you can also set your Spark job definition here. So this is a single plane where you can develop all your applications. So once we have built our applications, right, so right now what we have seen in the Snap Studio is we have the data with us, and we have built our application, we have built our pipelines, but I need to monitor these pipelines. I need to have a mechanism where I can see all my Spark jobs, and I can see all my pipelines, I can see all my SQL queries, how they're executing. So orchestration hub is a place, it provides ability to create pipelines to ingest, transform, and load data. So this is the orchestration hub is a pane where you can create your pipelines. So if your data sits anywhere, maybe in the on-prem or any cloud environment, you can create your pipeline here. You can create your ingestion pipeline. You can transform your data, and it also has rich 90 plus inbuilt connectors which we can use to transform your data. And this is the hub where you can create your pipeline and you can transform, model, and ingest your data to the Azure Synapse Analytics. With the Monitor Hub, so Monitor Hub will provide you the capability to monitor all your jobs, whether it will be your Spark applications, your pipelines, and your SQL queries. So this is the one-stop solution where you can monitor all your application. And the next thing in the Snap Studio is your Manage Hub. So we have talked about the data, we have talked about the pipelines, we have talked about the monitoring. Now, to provide the security, to access control, and to have your source control, so all these capabilities for your access, for your security is available in your Manage Hub. And you can use this Manage Hub to create your link services, to provide access to the Snap Studio. So this is the place where you can do all those things. So let me quickly jump into the Snap Studio. So this is the Synapse Studio we have talked about. So if you can see, this is the data plane. And in the data plane, we have all our databases. So this is the Spark created databases. And below you can see all my SQL databases, which is in the tabular format. And these are the dedicated SQL pool and the serverless SQL pool data available here in the data plane. Along with that, I also have my link services. With the link service, I can bring my external data. So you can see all the Azure blob storage data or the storage account data is available here. So if I can open any of the storage account, I can see all my containers where all my data is present. So apart from the lake databases and my SQL databases, I can even see all my external data sources here in the data plane. If I quickly jump into the SQL, the developer pane, in the developer pane, it will give me the capability to create the SQL script, to create my Spark pipeline, and to transform my data. So you can see here, write my SQL script here. I can collaborate with other developers, and even I can create my Spark application. And in the Spark application, I can use any of the language from PySpark to Spark, .NET, Spark SQL, and R. So this is a rich environment where we can collaborate and we can develop our application, transform our data, and model our data. And the next thing what we have seen is the orchestration on the Integrate Hub. Here I can create my pipelines. So these pipelines is to ingest the data, transform the data, and load the data into Azure Synapse Analytics. And this is the hub where we can create our pipelines. So I can show you one. Okay, so this is the pipeline which I have created. So if you can see this pipeline, so pipeline will consist of a source and a sink. So if I'll go to source and if I'll just hit new, you can see these all sources we can integrate with our pipelines. Whether it will be your on-prem databases or your cloud databases, everything can be integrated with the pipeline. You can see here the rich set of data, the connectors for Azure. You can see the rich sets of connectors for other than Azure, like DB2, SQL Server, Greenplum. So from here, I can create my pipelines, and also if I'll go to the sink, you can see there are the different connectors for the different sinks are available here in the pipeline. Next was our monitoring hub. So this was the hub where I can monitor all my pipelines. So right from my SQL request, all my SQL queries which are running in my serverless SQL pool or my dedicated SQL pool. So here I can just change from my dedicated SQL pool to my SQL serverless. And here is the filter I can monitor for 7 days, for 30 days. And I can also have a custom timeline to monitor all my jobs. Similarly, I can see my pipeline runs, and I can dig more, and I can see what was my source. It was on East US, and I copied the data from East US region to East US. I can see how many files are written, what was the piece connection. So all the details will be available in your monitoring. The last hub which is provided in the Snap Studio is your Manage Hub, and Manage Hub is to configure your source control. You can have your access control. So this is to manage the studio. And so this is the plane where you can do all your management. You can create your users, you can provide the access to the users, and you can configure your source control, and you can create your different link services to connect to the database. So this is all about Azure Synapse Studio, which is a developer experience provided in the Azure Synapse Analytics. So with this, what we'll do is we'll jump into a demo, and in the
Um,
demo,
um, yeah, Bhaskar, this is Christian. The user interface looks pretty much similar to Azure Data Factory. Any key differences you can explain apart from dedicated SQL pools? So I'm assuming your question is what are the difference between ADF and Synapse and the pipelines, and what are the other features of the that's available in Synapse Analytics, right? So let me see if how much I can answer that. So yeah, ADF and Synapse pipelines are they have by large have the same code base. However, ADF do have more features than Synapse pipelines. That's how it's been today. So you can assume that ADF is a bigger brother of Synapse pipelines, and that's the reason there's a there's a lot of similarity on the UX of the ADX and the pipeline. Now, coming back to your other part of the question, what are the other things that's available in than dedicated pool, right? In the Synapse, uh, you are getting not just a dedicated pool but also a serverless pool, as Bhaskar has shown in the demo, right? The moment you create a Synapse workspace, it also comes with a serverless endpoint, which is totally free of cost. You are charged based on amount of data it scans. So that is one. It has the ability to create Spark pools, and these Spark pools are integrated to the underlying storage and a dedicated pool. Then the other difference, what you can say, is the security what you define in the Synapse workspace. It's applicable whether you're is applicable to dedicated pool, serverless, and ADO. The managed VNet, that the small icon, what he showed on the screen, that put the that actually ring fence the network or the net. I mean, it actually create a workspace inside a managed VNet for Spark and ADF. And if you turn on something called DEP, they actually put a automatic firewall on all of your outbound data transfer. And these are the few. Apart from that, the UX, what you see, you don't get this studio when you're working with the ADA with the dedicated pool, and that a single plane which I was talking about, right, where you could do a single git which will cut across your serverless Spark and ADF. Then the DevOps experience and the monitoring and management experience all will come into an on single plane. Yeah, Bhaskar, if you want to add something, feel free to add.
yeah, pretty much you answered the question, Fretz.
Yeah.
So, with the interest of time, we'll start with the demo. So, in the demo, so what we are showing here is we are showing you a small pipeline, ingestion pipeline. So, what we are doing here is we are ingesting the data from the source system, and this source system can be anything. So, I have already shown you this can be your on-prem. You can ingest the data from your Teradata, Netezza, DB2, any environment into Azure Synapse Analytics, and your sync can be your if you'll go to the sync and if I'll see in my case, my sync is Azure Synapse Analytics, but you can have any sync in your pipeline. So I'm ingesting the data, and this is my pipeline. So I have ingested the uh, open data set, the New York taxi data set into Azure Synapse Analytics. So as I move to I'll show you here also in pipeline. If I'll use, you see the sync here. If I'll open the sync, and I'll just hit on the edit connection. You can see I am ingesting the data into my storage account, which is AZDW Snaps. And the good part is I'm at Snap Studio, and if I'll go to my data and I go to my attached storage, and this is my AZDW Snaps, which is already attached, and I can go quickly to New York taxi data. I can see all my data which I ingested from my, it can be on-prem or it can be any cloud environment. So my data is already there. So now I have my data. So typically what happens is when I need to analyze this data, either I need to write a Spark code because data is already available, in a Parquet format, or I need to ingest this data into a database. And while ingesting this data, I need to take care of schema, I need to take care of data types, I need to model it. So I need to do a dimensional modeling. So all this overhead I need to do before consuming this data. But being a QA, or I can say being a developer, I just wanted to check whether all this data is correct or not, do a sanity check that the total columns are okay, there is no nulls, and some sanity checks. So what I can do is, as Fretz mentioned, we have a serverless SQL pool, which is a T-SQL capability, or you can say T-SQL endpoint over my data in the storage account. So this is pay as you go. This is completely serverless. You don't need to maintain any infrastructure. So what I can do is I can go here and I can check, or okay, my data is landed or not. So for this, I don't have to provision any database. So data is sitting in AZW Snaps in my NYCTL demo container, and using the T-SQL endpoint, I am able to query the data. So this is the basic thing as it as a quality, as a QA I'm doing, and or as a developer I'm doing a basic testing. But being a data scientist, what I'm interested is I want to see the trend of the New York taxi ride over the years of 2009 to 2019. So over the 10 years, what was the trend? So for that also, I don't need to model or prepare this data. I can straight away, using the SQL serverless T-SQL capabilities, I can query this data, and I can find the meaning out of that data. So what I'm doing here is I'm just analyzing the data from 2009 to 2019, and I'm aggregating it with the year, and I'm seeing what was the total writes in each year. So being a data scientist, what I can do is I can quickly move into the charts. I can categorize as a column chart, and I can see the trend over the years. So I can see the total writes are decreasing. So being a data scientist, what I can get it from here is maybe there is a increased popularity of the ride sharing companies. That why the total number of rides are decreasing. And in 2019, the data was incomplete, so that's why this number is low. But from the trend, I can see it is gradually decreasing, and I can presume that this is because of the increased popularity of the ride sharing companies. Now what I want is I want to quickly, being a data scientist, I want to quickly analyze the data for 2019, and I wanted to see what is the trend of daily rides. So all those things without creating any model, any preparation and loading the data into database, right from my storage account, I can do all these analysis. I can do a column chart here again, and I can analyze this data on current day, and I can see, if I just zoom it, I can see there is a certain peaks. And when I will join this data with the public holiday data of United States, I will find that this peak is for the Saturdays, and the dips are when there were public holidays in the US. So that I can show you quickly with the help of an example. So if I'll join this data with the US holiday data, so here I'm joining two sources. One source is existing in my Synapse Analytics environment, you can see, and there is one open data source for the holiday data. I'm joining these two data to just get the value, and I can see, if I'll see here, I will just categorize it by current day. So you can see here the dip is on the public holidays. So with this, all this exploration I can do using the SQL serverless engine. So which is a T-SQL capability on top of my storage account. So I don't need to ingest this data into any database. I can do all those things without ingesting the data, preparing data, or doing any transformation. But if you are a developer and if you want to do the similar capabilities using the Spark code, yes, we have, you can write your Spark code, and you can do all those things with the Spark code also. You can see here I'm ingesting the data here, the New York taxi data, into my environment using the Spark application. With that, if you want to analyze this data, you don't need to go anywhere from the Snap Studio. What you can do is You can publish your Power BI report, or you can view the published Power BI report right from the studio, and you don't need to switch the pane to the Power BI services. You can see here I have published the report for the passenger count per year and the total amount by year for the New York taxi. So all those things you can see in a single tool. You can see your data, you can create your application, you can manage your application, you can orchestrate it, and even what you can do is you can create your all types of pipeline, transformation pipeline from the single page. So this ends our demo. I'll just move on to a slide. So So there are few links. I think we will be sharing this link into the chat. So these are the three links which will help you to get going and understand more about Azure Synapse Analytics. Because in the later sessions, we will be digging more deep on each of the workload, and not on that, we'll also cover few of the best practices on migration, and we will also share the real world example with you when we engage with the customers. So what we want is, there are a few links which we have shared, which will help you to learn more about Azure Synapse Analytics. So let me, and these links will be provided to you in the chat. So with this, I'll open the floor for the question and answer. If you have any questions, please post in the chat. Also, as I said earlier, if you have any use case and if you are migrating to Azure Synapse Analytics, you need any assistance, any guidance, we have shared our LinkedIn handles with you. You can reach out to us through LinkedIn.
Okay, so in case if there are no questions, I mean, we would encourage one of the links what Bhaskar showed is it's actually is a load module. So if you are new to Synapse Analytics and if you don't have not used a data warehousing system before, that module will actually get you started. It's just I think 60 to 90 minutes. It has created in different sections, so we would recommend you to go through that. That would be helpful in case if you want to go more into it. As he said, this is an overview. The next session, we will pick one of those services, say for example, say a dedicated pool, and talk in much in detail in terms of the what's underlying architecture, what are the best practices, and how you should go ahead about migrating if you're migrating into Synapse Analytics. Okay, so and our LinkedIn profiles are already in the chat, so feel free to reach out to us. So with that, uh, if there are no more questions, we are on top of the hour. We can hang around for another 1 more minute, and if not, we can call it a day. And thank you so much for staying back and listening to this. And I hope this was helpful for all of you. Okay, so there's one question from Kevin concerning the migration to Azure Synapse Analytics. What has to be migrated? Data warehouse migration, not database. That's a very good question. Yes, Azure Synapse Analytics is an all app, right? It's not meant for your operational or transactional database, which is an OLTP. So when you are talking about migration, you're migrating either from an appliance like a Netisa or a Teradata or from other data warehousing cloud or the on-premises data warehousing solution. Now, if you're leveraging a SQL Server as a data as a database, right? Which means it's you're running ETLs, you're running scheduled jobs, and reports that will fetch out of it. That would be uh, a good candidate to be migrated into the Synapse Analytics. But if you're using SQL Server for your transaction like an ordering system or for your booking system, in such scenarios, yeah, Synapse Analytics will not be the right fit. You should look into the Azure SQL database. That would be a right fit, or the Postgres, or the other open source databases that we have. Okay, I don't see any more questions in the comments. So then, thank you. Wish you. I mean, I hope all of you have a good day, and it was helpful. Okay, thanks, guys. We will talk to you very soon in our next session.